Beneath the shadow of Mount Sipylus lies the tale of the heart of Atreus, a family cursed by the gods. This saga of betrayal and vengeance, stretching across generations, captures the dire consequences of hubris and the dark pursuit of power. From the heinous act of Tantalus to the fraternal feud of Atreus and Thyestes and the ominous decisions of Agamemnon, their stories interweave, bound by blood and fate. As we delve into this epic narrative, prepare for a journey through ancient whispers and blood-stained legacies that will hold you captive until the final revelation. In the ancient realm of Lydia, there was a king named Tantalus, endowed with immense wealth and the favour of the gods. He ruled from his grand palace, overshadowed by the looming Mount Sipylus. Unlike any mortal, Tantalus often dined with the gods and held secrets not meant for human ears. But within his heart grew a dangerous seed of doubt and pride. He yearned to challenge the omniscience of the gods he dined with. One evening, under a twilight sky, Tantalus devised a vile test. He slaughtered his beloved son, Pelops, the light of his life and heir to his throne. With a heart turned cold and skilled hands, he cooked his son's flesh and served this macabre feast at a banquet where the gods were his guests. His intent was sinister, yet simple, to see if the gods could be deceived. But the gods, with eyes that see through the veils of mortality, were not fooled. Horrified with Tantalus's act of ultimate betrayal, they resurrected Pelops, piecing him back together with divine artifice, except for his shoulder, which was replaced by one of ivory. As for Tantalus, the gods cast him into the darkest depths of Tartarus. There he was condemned to an eternity of hunger and thirst, forever grasping at food and water that receded before his lips, a punishment reflecting his heinous deed. Thus was born the curse of the House of Atreus, a lineage marked from its very inception by the god's wrath, weaving threads of sorrow and misfortune through its destiny that would stretch across generations. After the horrors inflicted upon him by his father Tantalus, Pelops was given new life by the benevolent hands of the gods. With his body restored, except for the ivory shoulder that served as a permanent reminder of his ordeal, Pelops set his heart on a new endeavour in the lush valleys of Pisa. Here reigned King Enomaus, a formidable ruler feared by suitors vying for the hand of his beautiful daughter, Hippodamia. Enomaus, haunted by a prophecy that foretold his death at the hands of his daughter's husband, challenged each suitor to a chariot race, with the loser's penalty being death. Secretly, Enomaus possessed an unbeatable team of horses, gifted by the god Ares, ensuring his victories remained unchallenged. Pelops, however, driven by both love and ambition, sought to change his destiny through cunning rather than confront it with valour alone. He conspired with Myrtilus, the charioteer of Enomaus, promising him half the kingdom in exchange for his assistance. On the day of the race, Myrtilus replaced the bronze linchpins of the king's chariot with ones made of wax. As the race thundered towards its climax, the wax melted under the strain and heat, causing the wheels to fly off and hurling Enomaus to a gruesome death, fulfilling the dark prophecy. With Enomaus gone, Pelops claimed Hippodamia as his bride as they ascended to the throne of Pisa. Their union bore fruit in the form of several children, most notably Atreus and Thyestes. These sons would inherit not only the kingdom, but also the latent curse that seemed to cling to their lineage like a shadow. As Pelops expanded his dominion, little did he realize that his actions, much like his father's, sowed the seeds of future calamities that would one day rise to consume his descendants. In the halls of power where Atreus and Thyestes grew to manhood, the the seeds of discord planted long before their birth sprouted a bitter rivalry that darkened the corridors of their father's palace. Ambition and enmity wove tightly around the brothers, each marked by the curse that lingered over their lineage. Atreus, who ascended to the throne via Mycenae, sought to placate the gods and strengthen his reign by vowing to sacrifice his finest lamb to Artemis. However, fate presented him with an extraordinary sign, a lamb with fleece as golden as the sun itself. Bewitched by its splendor and potential as a symbol of divine favor, Atreus hid the golden lamb away, a secret treasure meant to secure his bond with the heavens. Yet secrets in a palace cast long shadows, and Thyestes, driven by a deep-seated jealousy and cunning, devised a plot to usurp his brother's throne. He seduced Atreus's wife, Aerope, who, blinded by passion or perhaps her own schemes, stole the golden lamb and gifted it to Thyestes. With this lamb, Thyestes claimed a divine right and persuaded the elders of Mycenae that he was the rightful king, as he possessed what seemed to be a token of the god's preference. Losing the throne, Atreus was not one to succumb to defeat. With the aid of Zeus, he reclaimed his crown through an act of cunning so dark it echoed the malevolence of Tantalus himself. Atreus invited Thyestes to a banquet of reconciliation, where he served him a grotesque meal made from the bodies of his own sons, slaughtered and cooked by Atreus in secrecy. The horror dawned on Thyestes as he realized the abomination he had partaken in. His grief and rage culminated in a curse so potent that it seemed to shake the very foundations of Mycenae. He cursed Atreus and all his lineage, a curse that would reverberate through their bloodline, promising that the swords they wielded in treachery would one day be turned upon themselves. Thus, the fraternal bond was severed irreparably, and the house of Atreus was left to stagger under the weight of a curse renewed, its legacy tainted with the blood of kinship and the ashes of ruinous vengeance. The sons of Atreus, Agamemnon and Menelaus, rose to prominence, their fates intertwined with the destiny of not just their own kingdom, but the entire Hellenic world. Agamemnon, the elder, inherited the throne of Mycenae, while Menelaus became king of Sparta after marrying Helen, whose beauty was said to eclipse that of all other women, destined to be the catalyst for war. Agamemnon's rule was marked by his marriage to Clytemnestra, the daughter of Thyestes, thus uniting two branches of a cursed lineage. This union, however, was overshadowed by the clouds of impending conflict that gathered over Greece, the call to arms for what would be known as the Trojan War, sparked by the abduction of Helen by Paris of Troy. As the leader of the Greek forces, Agamemnon faced a dire impediment as his fleet lay idle, the winds ceased by Artemis, whom he had offended. The oracle declared that only a grave sacrifice would appease the goddess and allow the fleet to sail. Torn between duty and love, Agamemnon made the harrowing decision to sacrifice his beloved daughter, Iphigenia, under the guise of a marriage to Achilles to lure Aulis. The sacrifice was carried out despite the heart-wrenching pleas and curses of Clytemnestra. The winds did rise, and the Greek ships set sail towards Troy, but the act left a deep chasm of hatred and sorrow in Clytemnestra's heart. Her marriage to Agamemnon, once a political alliance, turned into a silent battlefield, marred by grief and the burning coals of vengeance waiting to be stoked. Menelaus, meanwhile, led his part of the war effort, driven by both the desire to retrieve his wife and to uphold his honor as a king. The decade-long war that ensued was filled with legendary battles, the plays of gods, and the fall of heroes, etching the names of Agamemnon and Menelaus in the annals of myth and history. Thus, the shadows of the curse persisted, weaving through their lives as they navigated the treacherous waters of power, loyalty, and familial bonds, ultimately leading both brothers back to a homeland fraught with new and old dangers. The stage was set for further tragedies to unfold, as the wrath of Clytemnestra awaited Agamemnon upon his return, her heart now as cold as the blade she would wield. The fall of Troy marked a victorious end to the long and brutal conflict. Yet for Agamemnon, the true battle awaited at home, hidden within the shadows of his own hearth. As he sailed back to Mycenae, burdened with the spoils of war and the loss of many comrades, his wife, Clytemnestra, plotted his downfall, her soul filled with festering hatred. Years had not eased Clytemnestra's grief over the sacrifice of Iphigenia, nor had they softened her resolve for vengeance. Her heart, once wounded by betrayal, had turned steely and cold. Every waking moment was consumed by her plan to kill Agamemnon. Beside her stood Aegisthus, Thyestes' son, driven by a revenge as deep as his own blood. Together they shared a burning hatred for Agamemnon, each driven by deep-seated family scars. Aegisthus also bore the curse of the House of Atreus, a legacy of bloodshed and betrayal, his desire to avenge his brothers, who had been served as a grim feast by Atreus, created a strong bond with Clytemnestra. Their union, forged in the dark currents of past atrocities, was a powerful force against Agamemnon. When Agamemnon returned, he was greeted not with the warmth of home, but with a carefully laid trap. Clytemnestra welcomed him with fake joy and ceremonial splendor, hiding the darkness in her eyes. The palace, which should have been a sanctuary, became a stage for his final moments. As Agamemnon bathed, unaware of the impending betrayal, Clytemnestra struck, ensnaring him in a net from which there was no escape. The murder of Agamemnon cast a dark shadow over Mycenae, but it was Orestes' destiny to step into the light. Burdened with divine mandates and ancestral vengeance, young and exiled, Orestes lived under the curse of his lineage, haunted by the unavenged ghost of his father. Commanded by Apollo, the god of prophecy and justice, Orestes was thrust into a path stained with the blood of kinship. The divine order was clear. He must return to Mycenae and avenge his father by killing Clytemnestra and Aegisthus, his mother and her lover, to restore the honor of his house. The command clashed with his human hesitations, for it required matricide. Steeling his heart against his emotions, Orestes returned to Mycenae disguised as a stranger, with the help of his loyal friend Pylades. He confronted Aegisthus and killed him swiftly, an act of retribution that was both personal and political. Yet the harder task lay in confronting his mother. Facing Clytemnestra was a struggle between love and duty. Her pleas for mercy and reminders of maternal love tore at Orestes' resolve. But Apollo's command and his father's ghost drove him on. With a heart heavy with grief and hands shaking, Orestes killed Clytemnestra, fulfilling the divine command, but breaking the bond between mother and child. The moment the deed was done, the Furies, ancient deities of vengeance, were roused. They pursued Orestes, plaguing him with madness and guilt, their spectral forms a constant torment. Desperate, Orestes fled, seeking purification and refuge in various sanctuaries of Greece. His journey was a testament to the relentless pursuit of divine and ancestral justice in a world where morality was blurred by curses and commands of gods. Thus, the cycle of vengeance continued, weaving Orestes into the tapestry of his family's tragedy. His path would eventually lead to a resolution in the courts of Athens under the watchful eyes of Athena and the Areopagus. Tormented by the relentless pursuit of the Furies, Orestes found no peace after this vengeance. These ancient spirits of retribution haunted his every step, their whispers of guilt and madness a constant shadow. As Orestes wandered the lands marked by the blood of his own mother, his plight became a symbol of the consuming curse that had plagued his family for generations. In his darkest hour, Orestes sought refuge at the temple of Apollo at Delphi, the very god who had set him on this perilous path. Seeing the tormented soul of Orestes racked by the Furies' relentless punishment, Apollo decided to intervene once more. He sent Orestes to Athens to stand trial before Athena and the Areopagus, the venerable council of elders. This trial was not just for Orestes, but for the very laws of vengeance that had governed the divine and human worlds since time immemorial. Under the shadow of the Acropolis, in a trial attended by gods and mortals alike, Orestes pleaded his case. The Furies, too, voiced their grievance, demanding retribution for disrupting the natural order. Athena, goddess of wisdom and warfare, presided over the celestial court with a discerning eye, understanding the need for a new covenant between the divine and earthly realms. After hearing all sides, Athena cast the deciding vote in favor of Orestes, thereby acquitting him. The verdict was not just an absolution for Orestes, but a profound transformation of justice itself. Athena proposed a new role for the Furies, turning these avengers of blood guilt into the Eumenides, or the kindly ones, protectors of the civic order and state integrity. This redefinition marked a pivotal shift from the cyclical vengeance of old to a system where law and order were maintained through judicial process and divine oversight. Orestes' acquittal from the reformation of the Furies symbolized the lifting of the ancient curse from the House of Atreus. Peace was restored to the lineage, and Orestes himself was purified, allowed to return to Argos and reclaim his rightful place as king. This resolution heralded a new era, one in which justice was mediated by law and wisdom rather than by raw and primal forces of vengeance. Thus, the long and bloody chapter of the House of Atreus closed, leaving behind a legacy that would echo through the ages as a stark reminder of the power of redemption and the enduring quest for justice amidst the ruins of familial strife. And so, the long and bloody chapter of the House of Atreus comes to a close. But what do you think? Could Orestes have found another way to break the cycle of vengeance? Do you believe the curse was truly lifted, or did it merely take a different form? And how do these ancient tales of hubris, betrayal, and redemption resonate with our lives today? Thank you for watching.